A boy from a small town in Georgia suddenly approached a young attorney, asking for help because his mother was in jail. The man, feeling an unexpected surge of emotion, paused when he noticed the boy looked scruffy and tired. "Sir," the boy called out gently. The man's brows furrowed as he studied the child. For some reason, his heartbeat began to race. "Is this where the lawyers work? Are you a lawyer too?" the boy asked innocently, pointing at the law office behind him. The man blinked and answered, Yes." "Can you help me?" the boy asked in a timid voice, handing him something. When the man looked down, he saw it was a banana. "This is all I have," the child said. "Can you help my mom? I picked this from the farm just to give you." The man's lips parted in surprise. Troy, the attorney, had always had a soft heart. He immediately felt compassion. "What's your name and how old are you? Where are you from?" Troy asked gently, kneeling slightly to meet the child at eye level. "Priam, I'm 6, the boy answered earnestly. Troy smiled faintly at the name. He remembered that Priam was the last king of Troy in the Trojan War. For some reason, he felt a strange connection to the boy, perhaps through the similarity in their names. "I'm from the next town," Priam added. Troy blinked in surprise. "You came here all the way from the next town? How?" "I walked. I asked people for directions," Priam said quietly. Troy's heart clenched. That town was at least 10 kilometers away. He couldn't believe a young boy had walked that far, just to ask for help for his mother. "What happened to your mum?" he asked. "She was accused of stealing jewelry," Priam replied, "but she told me stealing is bad, so I know she didn't do it." Troy nodded solemnly. "Do you know how dangerous it is for a kid like you to walk that far alone? Did your mom even know you left?" he asked with concern. Priam bit his lip and shook his head. "Mom said I should stay home and wait for Auntie Gigi to bring me food. But I miss her. I just want her to come home. I'm really worried," the boy said, softly. Troy could see from Priam's demeanor that he had been raised well. That only deepened his conviction that the boy's mother must be a good person, too. He took a deep breath, offered a small smile, and nodded. "I'll help your mom, Priam," Troy said, finally accepting the 2 bananas the boy had been offering since the beginning. "Have you eaten?" The boy shook his head. "I was just about to eat. Come with me, we'll eat together. I have a lot of questions about your mom. Then I'll take you home, okay?" The boy smiled and nodded happily. Troy wasn't sure why he felt so drawn to the child, whether it was out of pity or because of the boy's innocent charm. But either way, he was determined to help. His full name was Troy Sanders, 32 years old, and he owned a small but growing law firm in a town in Georgia. He had always felt like something was missing in his life, and that emptiness dated back to a tragic accident almost 7 years ago. He had been hit by a truck while crossing the street, and due to that accident, he developed selective amnesia. He lost the memories from the last 3 years of his life. He had been 25 then, but when he woke up in the hospital after a month-long coma, he thought he was only 22. Ever since the accident, Troy had noticed that he kept dreaming of a woman, her face unclear, telling her he loved her deeply, and hearing her say she loved him back. But despite the years that had passed, he still hadn't figured out who she was. He wasn't even sure if the dream was based on a real memory or just a figment of his imagination. All he knew was that every time he tried to force himself to remember, it only gave him a headache. Still, he longed to regain those missing 3 years. That longing was what had brought him back to Georgia, his hometown. He believed that being in familiar surroundings might trigger something that would help him feel whole again. "Hello, babe," Troy greeted softly as he answered a phone call that had woken him from his thoughts. "Aunt Mel said you weren't answering her calls, so I called you instead. She wants to talk to you," said his girlfriend, Fatima, gently. Troy smiled faintly. Fatima had always been close to his parents. They had been together for almost a year now, and even though he still felt like something was missing in his life due to his lost memories, he knew he genuinely liked her. She was from Seattle, and they had met there. She was also an attorney, just like him. The next morning, Troy woke up early with the intention of visiting Priam. The night before, he had taken the boy out to eat and asked him a few questions about his mother. He had learned that her name was Aileen Fletcher. According to Priam, they had no other family. It had always been just the two of them. The boy had never known his father, and Aileen worked as a sales lady at a jewelry store in town. Some expensive pieces had gone missing from the shop, and Aileen had been accused of theft. Troy didn't know for sure if she was innocent, but regardless, he had already decided he would help. "Mr. Troy," Priam greeted him with joy and excitement as he got out of his car. The boy was sitting outside the same house where Troy had dropped him off the night before. "Good morning, Priam," Troy greeted him with a warm smile. "Let's go." Just then, a voice interrupted them. "Wait, where are you taking him?" Troy turned around. A woman was walking toward them, her arms crossed, clearly concerned. "Priam, you can't just go with anyone," she scolded. "Your mom would scold me if anything bad happened to you." "That's Auntie Gigi," Priam said quickly. "He's the lawyer I told you about. He said he'll help Mom." "Attorney Troy Sanders," Troy introduced himself, reaching out to shake the woman's hand. "I'm Gigi," the woman replied, accepting his hand politely. "I'm a friend of Aileen's, and I've been taking care of Priam for now." "It's fine if I come with you, right?" she added quickly. "It's not that I don't trust you, but I hope you understand I just want to make sure Priam is safe." Troy gave a small smile and nodded. "Sure, let's go." The three of them got into the car and drove straight to the police station where Aileen was being held. They requested to see her, and while they waited, Troy found himself smiling as Priam excitedly chatted about his mother. "Priam!" a woman called out. "Mom!" the boy yelled joyfully. Troy turned around and saw a beautiful woman. He was about to stand but froze as a sudden pain throbbed in his head. Her face, there was something about it. A blurry image flickered in his memory, like the smiling lips from his dreams. "Troy?" the woman said softly. "Do you know me?" he asked, startled. She looked puzzled. "He's the attorney, Mom," Priam interjected. "He said he'll help you so you can come home. I missed you, Mom." The woman stared at Troy. "I'm asking you, do you know me?" he asked again. She swallowed, then slowly shook her head. "Ah, no. You just look like someone I used to know. I'm Aileen Fletcher," she said, reaching out her hand. Troy looked at her carefully. He wasn't convinced by her answer, but he accepted her handshake anyway. "Attorney Troy Sanders," he said softly. Aileen quickly pulled her hand back and avoided his gaze. "Have a seat, Aileen. I need to hear the full story so I know how to help you," Troy said as she nodded and sat down. "So, what really happened?" he asked. "I've been working at Crystal Gold Jewelers for almost 5 years now," Aileen began. "I was the store supervisor. I know for a fact that Mr. Andrew Lim, my boss, has a mistress, Mary Quinto. She often comes to the shop to buy jewelry. On the day I was accused, she was our only customer. The CCTV shows her taking the jewelry, but Mr. Lim accused me instead. He didn't want her to go to jail, and especially didn't want his wife to find out about the affair. I tried to explain, but no one listened. I think they even tampered with the footage. Will I be able to get out of here?" she asked, her voice full of worry. "Of course," Troy said without hesitation. "The police told me the charge is qualified theft. That's bailable. I'll post bail for now, and we'll go after the real culprit later." Troy saw Aileen visibly relax at his words. "Thank you so much, attorney. I promise I'll repay you for everything once I get out. I'll find a new job immediately," Aileen said sincerely. "You shouldn't be thanking me. You have a wonderful son, Aileen. You raised him well," Troy said, looking fondly at Priam. "What do you mean?" Aileen asked, confused. "Sorry, girl," Gigi interjected. "Yesterday, after I left for work, I didn't know Priam had gone out. When I came home that afternoon, he was gone. I thought he was just playing with the neighbors. Turns out he walked all the way to town to ask for help. I searched everywhere and only found him when I returned to your house around 9 p.m. He said attorney brought him home." "I'm sorry, Mom," Priam said sweetly. Aileen bit her lip, her eyes welling with tears. She couldn't believe her son had done all that for her. If it had been a normal day, she might have scolded him for doing something so dangerous. But now, because of her son, she had hope again. "Thank you, sweetheart, but please promise me you won't ever do that again. Didn't I tell you not to go anywhere without me or Auntie Gigi?" "I promise, Mom. I'm sorry," Priam replied. Troy wasted no time. He handled the paperwork for Aileen's bail. Afterward, they discussed her case a bit more. "I'll drive you home," Troy offered. "No need," Aileen replied quickly, catching him off guard. "I mean, we've already burdened you so much. You've done more than enough for us." Troy studied her carefully. He had noticed all along that she wouldn't look him in the eye. It only made his suspicions stronger, that there was something she didn't want to talk about, something she was avoiding. "All right then," Troy said. "I need to get back to the office. After that, I'll stop by Crystal Gold Jewelers to see if the nearby shops have any CCTV footage." Aileen nodded. "Thank you, attorney," she said softly. "Mr. Attorney, if Aunt Lydia gives me another banana, I'll bring you one again," Priam said cheerfully. Troy chuckled and ruffled the boy's hair before heading out. When Troy arrived at his office, he immediately began working on what needed to be done. He even assigned one of his staff to research Andrew Lim and his mistress, Mary Quinto. Before lunch, his team had already gathered the necessary information. They also retrieved several photos of Andrew and Mary together, looking rather affectionate. Troy figured it was more than enough for what he planned to do next. After lunch, he went straight to Crystal Gold Jewelers. First, he visited nearby shops, hoping to find security footage that would show Mary entering the store on the day in question. Once he got hold of such footage, he wasted no time heading straight to the jewelry store where Aileen had previously worked. He was finally face to face with the owner, Andrew Lim, an older man with a large gut who greeted Troy with clear irritation. "What do you want?" the man asked gruffly. Troy dropped the photos on the table, images of Andrew and his mistress. "It's simple. I want you to clear Aileen Fletcher's name. A public apology on social media will do. Pay her back wages and cover the bail amount," Troy said sharply. "She worked for you for nearly 5 years, and this is how you repay her? You lost a good employee, Mr. Lim." "She's a thief," the older man barked. Troy clenched his jaw in irritation, but reminded himself to stay calm, something he had learned as an attorney. Patience was critical when dealing with people like this. "I have a copy of CCTV footage showing your mistress entering the shop that day. From 8 a.m., when it opened, until 10 a.m., no other customer entered except her. Based on my research, Mary Quinto already has prior records of shoplifting in several malls. Now, if you want me to do this the hard way, I can. I'll file defamation charges against both of you. And what do you think your wife and kids will say when they find out you've been cheating on them for years?" Troy spoke in a low, steady voice. Andrew's face paled in fear. Okay, he said, waving his hands. "I'll give her the back pay and cover her bail. I'll even post a public apology." "Happy. Now we're talking." Troy replied with a smirk. But I want you to do it now. Andrew scowled deeper, but didn't argue. He first posted the public apology on his company's social media pages, then began processing Aileen's back wages. Once Troy got everything he needed, he stood and left the pictures on the desk. Before walking out the door, he turned to Andrew one last time. By the way, you might want to head home early. I already sent a copy of those pictures to your wife, he said, clearly taunting him. Andrew's eyes widened in horror. I hate cheaters, Mr. Lim, Troy added. I despise people who don't know how to be content. I loathe people like you. With that, he walked away. No, he didn't plan to sue the man anymore. He had already achieved what he came for. But that didn't mean he wouldn't find a way to make Andrew pay for what he did to Aileen. As he got into his car, Troy chuckled softly. He found the outcome extremely satisfying. He glanced down at the envelope containing Aileen's back pay. At least now he had a reason to see her again, and maybe, just maybe, she could help him recover some of the memories he had lost. You know something, don't you, Aileen? He whispered to himself as he drove back to the office. I saw it in your eyes, in the way you reacted. I know you recognize me. I don't know why you're avoiding me, but I'll do everything I can to figure out what our connection really was. In the following days, Troy was extremely busy with work, so he wasn't able to visit Aileen right away to give her the back pay he had collected from Mr. Limit. But today, with a lighter schedule, he didn't hesitate to head to her house. Good morning, he greeted cheerfully when he saw Aileen watering the plants in front of their small home. Where's Priam? He asked, smiling. He's at school, Aileen replied, a bit puzzled. What are you doing here? Oh, right. I got your back pay from Mr. Lim, he said, handing her the envelope. I've been busy these past few days, so I couldn't bring it to you right away. That might not be enough to cover the bail you paid, she said softly. Mr. Lim paid the bail too, he answered quickly. I assume you saw the public apology? Aileen nodded slowly. Thank you again. He's been getting a lot of backlash for what happened. Even my old co-workers have started quitting. They say it's hard to hire new staff now. I even heard his wife left him. Honestly, I'm not happy about what happened to him, even after what he did to me. But thank you for helping me, she said sincerely. I just did what I thought was right, Troy replied. And besides, he deserved it. None of that would have happened if he were a decent man. Anyway, take this. I know it'll help you start over, he said, handing her the envelope. Aileen hesitated, but accepted it and gave him a faint smile. Thanks again. If you haven't found a job yet, I could offer you one at my firm. You could be my secretary, Troy said, surprising them both. The truth was, Troy just wanted an excuse to keep seeing her. As he had admitted to himself before, he felt like she could help bring back his lost memories. I already submitted applications to other companies, she replied softly, avoiding his eyes, but thank you for the offer. Why do I feel like you're avoiding me? He asked seriously. Aileen was startled and turned to him in surprise. I'm not avoiding you, attorney. I mean, I don't have a reason to. If anything, I don't even know how to thank you for helping me and helping us, she said. You're not avoiding me, but you didn't let me drive you home that day. You're not avoiding me, but you just turned down the job offer. You're not avoiding me, but you won't even let me step inside your yard, Troy said calmly, though his words were tinged with sarcasm. He suddenly realized he was still standing outside the small gate of their home. Look, I really feel like we've met before, like we knew each other once, he said. So if I ever did something bad to you in the past, I'm sorry. But can't we at least be friends? We've never met before, attorney. Like I said, you just look and sound like someone I used to know. Aileen answered, again avoiding his gaze. You're not a good liar, Troy said gently. You won't even look me in the eye. Almost 7 years ago, I got into a car accident, he began. He didn't miss the shock that crossed Aileen's face, even though she wasn't looking directly at him. I know I shouldn't be telling you this. It's not something I'm proud of. But because of that accident, I developed selective amnesia. I woke up thinking I was 22, and I forgot the last 3 years of my life. So, I'm sorry if I seem familiar to you, but I feel like we knew each other before. I really believe that with your help, I might be able to remember everything I lost, he said, his voice full of emotion. Aileen swallowed hard. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Yes, she knew him. Not just knew him, she had known him deeply. She had been avoiding him. Yes, because she never thought she'd see him again after almost 7 years. Who was Troy in her life? He was the man who once promised to love her forever. The man who said they would build a family together and chase their dreams side by side. One day, he told her he was going to visit his parents in Seattle, but that was the last time she saw him. After that, he vanished without a trace. So yes, seeing him again like this, hearing that he had amnesia, it was overwhelming. Do you want to hear the truth? Aileen asked, serious now. Troy's face lit up, and he nodded quickly. Aileen sighed and gave a sad smile. I'm the woman you promised to marry. I'm the one you said you'd love forever and stay with through everything. But then you disappeared. We were together for over 2 years, Troy, and just like that, it was all gone, she said, bitterness lacing her words. Troy's mouth fell open. He couldn't believe it. He had assumed she might have been a friend or acquaintance, but now it all made sense. Why she was avoiding him, why she seemed so hurt. I spent years feeling angry and bitter toward you, and now here you are, helping me. Now I know why you vanished. You had an accident, you lost your memory, and yes, I believe you. But I hope you understand why I kept my distance. Even if your reason is valid, it didn't make everything easier. The pain was still there. A lot has changed in the past few years, she said softly. I understand, Troy whispered. He nodded slowly. I'm really sorry if I caused you pain. I was pregnant then, Troy, Aileen said, her voice trembling with tears. Troy's shock deepened. You said you'd only be gone for a few days. You said we'd get married when you returned. But weeks and months passed, and you never came back. I waited like a fool. I even tried to find you in Seattle, though I didn't even know where to start. It was hard, especially when my mother died. I felt completely alone. But I fought hard, for Priam, she added. Every time she looked back on what happened and all the hardships she endured, the pain resurfaced. The anger may have faded, but the wound was still raw. My son is Priam, she said in a quiet voice. Troy stared at her in disbelief. Aileen closed her eyes, and the tears finally spilled over. She nodded. Troy wiped his face with his hands. He believed fate could be cruel, but he never imagined it had robbed him of so much because of one unfair twist. You don't have to believe me if you don't want to, Aileen said. I believe you, Troy replied without hesitation. That night when Priam came to me, I didn't know why, but my heart started racing. I felt an instant connection with him. I thought things like that only happened in movies and books, but now I think that's what they call a blood bond. And I believe you, Aileen. His voice was full of sincerity as he looked at her soft, beautiful face, still tear-streaked. I don't know all the pain you've been through, he continued, but even though I never meant to leave, I still want to say I'm sorry. From now on, I want to do everything I can to make things right. I want to recover my lost memories. I want to fix everything between us. There's nothing to fix anymore, Aileen said seriously. We're fine as we are. If you want to take a paternity test, that's okay. I'll let you be Priam's father. But like I said, too much has changed over the years. We can be friends, but that's all." Aileen gave him a faint smile and wiped the tears from her eyes. Troy didn't understand why, but something in his chest ached at her words. Still, he knew she was right. So much had changed. For now, this was enough. What mattered was that he could see her and Priam. He had never imagined that Priam was actually his son. Days passed, and everything gradually fell into place. Even though Troy didn't want it, he had no choice but to respect Aileen's decision to proceed with a paternity test. She didn't want him to think she was lying, even though he didn't doubt her. The result came back, 99.9% match. There was no question. Priam was his son. Aileen formally introduced Troy to Priam as his father. The boy cried so hard he couldn't stop for several minutes. All he could do was hold on to Troy tightly. Troy too became emotional, and from that moment on, he did everything he could to make up for lost time. He knew he could never get back the years he missed, but he also knew there was still so much he could do to be a good father to Priam. "Dad, I got a gold star from my teacher. She said I did really well on my homework." Priam beamed one evening when Troy visited them at home. "That's amazing, champ. What reward do you want? Want me to take you out tomorrow?" Troy asked with affection. "Yes, Daddy," Priam said cheerfully. Whenever he had the chance, Troy would take Priam out. He truly wanted to make it up to his son, but there was also a part of him that wanted to be close to the boy's mother. "Dinner's ready. Come eat with us, Troy," Aileen called from the kitchen. Troy smiled. In that moment, everything felt real, like they were a true family. Even if he and Aileen had agreed to be just friends for now, it didn't stop him from imagining a future where that might change. As they sat down at the table, Troy grinned when he saw what was on the table. Beef stew. "That's my favorite," he said, surprised. "I know," Aileen replied softly. Troy pursed his lips. She had told him they were together for over 2 years. It wasn't surprising that she knew a lot about him. It made sense now why she would cook something he loved. "Oh, by the way, if you're not busy tomorrow, maybe we can take our son out again. He did really well in school today, and I'd love to reward him," Troy said casually as they ate. "I have work tomorrow," Aileen replied. "Maybe some other time." She had recently been hired as a supervisor at a clothing boutique in the mall. She had a 2-year vocational degree, and with nearly 5 years of supervisory experience from her previous job, it wasn't hard for her to find work again. "So, when you're at work, Priam's home alone?" Troy asked curiously. "I leave him with Aunt Lydia. She has grandkids his age and they go to school together and play a lot. Priam's not a fussy or wild kid, so he's easy to care for," Aileen explained. Troy nodded slowly. "If I were your husband, I wouldn't let you work," he muttered without thinking. Both of them froze and looked at each other. It wasn't impossible. They could have been married if not for his amnesia. The look of surprise on their faces was clear. "I mean, it's just that I'd want you to focus on raising Priam," Troy added, stumbling to explain himself. His heart was racing, and he didn't know why the idea of being married to her felt so good, so right. Aileen didn't respond. Just then, Troy's phone rang. When he saw the caller ID, he froze. Fatima. He immediately felt a pang of guilt. In the past few days, he had completely forgotten that he had a girlfriend. He had been so caught up in the moments with Priam and Aileen. "Excuse me, I have to take this," he said gently, standing up. Aileen didn't say anything, but she watched him as he walked away. She didn't know why, but she found herself smiling. Her heart beat a little faster because of what Troy had said earlier. "Mum, why are you smiling?" Priam asked sweetly. "Are you happy Daddy's with us?" She coughed awkwardly and adjusted her seat. "Eat your food, sweetheart," she said quickly, changing the subject, even though she knew her son had done nothing wrong. "Mum, I'm happy," Priam said softly. "My classmates always said I didn't have a dad, but now I do." "I'm happy you're happy, sweetheart," was all Aileen could say. They continued eating, the warm feeling lingering between them. A little while later, Aileen looked up when the door opened and Troy came back inside. "Something came up. I have to go," he said to her and Priam. "I'm sorry, son, but Daddy will make it up to you tomorrow, okay?" he added lovingly, kissing Priam on the forehead. "Take care," Aileen said quietly. Troy looked at her, a little surprised, then smiled. He was happy to hear that from her. "You two take care as well, and if anyone knocks on the door that you don't know, don't open it, okay?" he reminded them. Aileen pursed her lips slightly and nodded. "I'll see you tomorrow," he added. She didn't know if it was just her imagination, but his voice carried a hint of tenderness. When Troy left, Aileen instinctively pressed a hand to her chest. Her heart was still beating fast and hard. She couldn't remember the last time she had felt that way, probably not since the day he proposed to her almost 7 years ago. She had insisted they remain just friends. So why was her heart reacting like this? After they finished dinner, Aileen cleaned up and helped Priam wash up so they could get some rest. But that night, she couldn't sleep. Troy's words and presence continued to cloud her thoughts. "Bye, Miss Aileen. See you tomorrow," one of Aileen's co-workers said with a smile one afternoon as they clocked out after their shift. "Take care, Aileen," another voice called. She turned slightly and gave a polite smile to the man who addressed her. "Mr. Jake, is there something you need?" she asked. "I just wanted to ask how work's been going. Are the staff treating you okay? No headaches yet?" Jake said with a grin. She had only known and worked with Jake for just over a week, but he had always shown nothing but kindness, not just to her, but to all their co-workers. She had told him during the interview that she had left her previous job after being falsely accused of theft. Still, Jake had trusted her and hired her anyway. "Well, it's a bit hard to adjust at first," Aileen answered politely. "There are some tasks I didn't do before, but nothing in life is easy, right? Everything takes hard work. I'm getting used to it." "I'm glad you're enjoying what you're doing," Jake replied. Aileen didn't get a chance to respond because a familiar voice suddenly called out her name. When she turned, she was surprised to see Troy standing casually, leaning against his car while holding Priam. "We've been waiting for you," Troy said gruffly. "Oh, I didn't know you were married," Jake said in surprise. "Not that it matters, it just didn't come up during the interview." "He's not my husband, Mr. Jake, but he is the father of my son, Priam," Aileen replied calmly. "Oh, okay," Jake said, giving a short nod. "Anyway, if you ever need anything, just let me know, all right?" Aileen gave another small nod. "I'll see you tomorrow, Aileen," Jake said as he walked away. Once he was out of earshot, she immediately approached Troy and their son. "What are you two doing here?" she asked. "We've been here a while. Didn't I say I'd take our son out today?" Troy replied, his tone a little grumpy. Aileen frowned, confused by his sudden mood. "Is that your boyfriend?" Troy asked. "Mr. Jake? No," Aileen replied quickly. "Mum, do you have a boyfriend?" Priam asked innocently. "Shouldn't Daddy be your only boyfriend?" Aileen's mouth fell open. "Mum doesn't have a boyfriend," she answered quickly, shooting Troy a glare. He was smirking now. She wanted to scold him for making comments like that in front of Priam, but she held back. The last thing she wanted was to prolong the conversation. "Let's go," Troy said with a grin, placing Priam in the back seat of the car. Aileen sighed and was about to sit in the back seat herself when Troy suddenly spoke again. "I'm not a taxi driver, Aileen. Get in the front seat," he insisted. She pouted slightly but complied. "Do you have bipolar disorder?" she asked as she buckled her seatbelt. "Huh?" Troy looked confused. "You're grumpy 1 minute, smirking the next, then grumpy again. What's your problem?" she asked, clearly baffled. "I'm not grumpy. This is just how I am," Troy replied casually. Aileen shook her head and chose not to argue further. On the drive home, she listened to Priam's enthusiastic stories about what he and his dad had done all day. It was one of her favorite things, to listen to her son talk. She knew there would come a day when he would grow older, and these little moments would pass. She cherished every second of it. Aileen, can I ask you a favor?" Troy said gently later that evening, as they both sat outside on the porch, enjoying the breeze after dinner. Priam was inside, busy playing with the new toys Troy had bought for him. "What is it?" she asked. "You're off work tomorrow, right?" Aileen nodded. "While Priam's at school, can you come with me to visit the places we used to go to? I mean, maybe it'll help me remember the memories I lost," Troy said, his voice quiet. Aileen paused, caught off guard by the request. She didn't understand why, but the idea made her nervous. It had been years since those memories had surfaced, and even though she kept telling herself that she had moved on, she was scared that something might stir emotions she wasn't ready for. Still, she couldn't bring herself to say no. Since they met again, Troy had shown nothing but kindness. "Okay," was all she said. Troy's face lit up with a grateful smile. "Thank you, Aileen," he said sincerely. The next day, Troy arrived early at their house. They first dropped Priam off at school, then headed out together. The first place Aileen suggested they visit was the university they both used to attend, the place where they first met. "You were a graduating student. You were sitting here playing the guitar, and my friends and I were sitting on the bench across from you," Aileen said, as they stood in front of a row of benches inside the university. "My friends were giddy, especially when you suddenly walked over and asked for my number. I was 22 then. Why can't I remember any of this?" Troy muttered, rubbing his forehead. "I mean, I remember being 22 and preparing to enroll for the upcoming school year." He went quiet and tried to recall something, anything, but ended up wincing as a sharp pain struck his head. "Are you sure you're okay? Maybe this wasn't such a good idea if it's just giving you headaches," Aileen said with concern. Troy didn't know why, but her concern made him smile. "I'm okay, it's just, I really want to remember everything I've lost. That way, maybe I'll stop feeling like there's something missing." Aileen gave him a faint smile in response. They stayed at the university for a few more minutes before deciding to head downtown, where there was a plaza they used to frequent. "We always hung out here," Aileen said as they walked slowly. "Especially when you were courting me." "This was our first date," she added, with a shy laugh. "We ate street food because you were saving money. You said you didn't want to ask your parents for anything. You wanted to earn everything on your own. This was also where you asked me to be your girlfriend, and where you first saw me cry. It was after my dad died. He had a heart attack. You were here, hugging me the whole time." She paused, her voice turning soft and sad. "And months later, when we found out my mum had a brain tumor, I cried again, right here in your arms. I was terrified, Troy. We had just lost Dad, and then we got the news about Mum. But you were there. You held me and told me she'd be okay. You said she'd get better, that she'd live to see us get married, to see our kids." "I'm sorry," Troy said quietly, the weight of it all sinking in. Aileen forced a smile and shook her head. "You don't have to say sorry. It's been a long time. I've let it go," she said, though she wasn't sure if she was being entirely truthful. She had to remind herself they were there to help Troy remember, not for her to dwell on past pain. But the two things were tightly linked. After you graduated, while you were in law school, you told me becoming a lawyer was your dream. One night, I waited for you here, Aileen said softly, and this was where I told you I was pregnant. Troy's eyes widened. This spot, in front of this church, she continued. That's the night I proposed to you, Troy cut in suddenly. Aileen turned to him, startled. Ow! Troy groaned, clutching his head as he winced in pain. He squeezed his eyes shut and sank onto the cold pavement. Troy, are you okay? Aileen asked in alarm, rushing to his side as he visibly struggled with the sharp pain. I told you this wasn't a good idea, she said anxiously. You shouldn't force yourself to remember, especially if it hurts like this. She didn't know what else to do. It was clear he was in pain, and she was frightened for him. Then she heard him sob quietly. Aileen froze as Troy slowly raised his head, revealing tear-streaked cheeks and a devastated expression. There was no ring, he whispered, so I made one out of a straw from the drink we had that night. I promised you we'd start a family, that I'd take care of you and our child, that we'd name the baby Priam. Troy broke down completely. Oh God, I missed you so much, he sobbed. I'm sorry, Aileen. I'm really, really sorry. He nearly fell to his knees in front of her. He had been right. With Aileen's help, the memories had returned. Somehow, miraculously, everything came rushing back. This was the plaza, the church, the very place where he had made all those promises to the woman he loved. He hadn't meant to break them, but fate had been cruel. Even if it wasn't his fault, the guilt crushed him. I promised to take care of you and our baby. I said I'd be back right away, but I never came back. I failed you, he whispered. That night, after he had proposed to Aileen, he had left to visit his parents in Seattle. He wanted to tell them he was going to be a father. He had invited Aileen to go with him, but she refused. She couldn't leave her sick mother behind. And while he was in Seattle, the accident happened. He remembered lying on the pavement, numb and motionless, staring at the sky with only one person in his mind, Aileen, the woman he loved. It's not your fault, Troy, Aileen whispered, her own tears falling now. She didn't know how to comfort him as he continued crying, overwhelmed with regret and sorrow. So she did the only thing she could. She hugged him tightly and let her tears fall too. Are you okay now? Aileen asked gently when they got back to Troy's house. She handed him a glass of water, which he gratefully accepted. Yes, thank you, Troy replied softly, then sighed deeply. Imagine, years of trying to remember, and nothing worked. We really were played by fate. But I was right. You're the one who could help me remember everything. It's like destiny brought us back together for this. You were in so much pain earlier, I didn't know what to do, Aileen said. But I'm happy for you, Troy. I'm glad you finally remembered what you wanted to. Aileen, he said, voice full of guilt. I know I've said this over and over, but I'm sorry for the things I failed to do, for not being there for you or our son. You were right. We didn't choose what happened, but I still feel awful. I want to make things right. I want to make it up to you and to Priam. Do you think we could still work this out? Troy asked, sincere and hopeful. Aileen swallowed hard. The truth was, part of her wanted that too. But she was scared. It had only been a few weeks since they saw each other again. She didn't even know if he still truly loved her, or if this was just guilt talking. I think we should take things slow, she said finally. Like I've said before, a lot has changed. If you ask me, yes, I'd love to give Priam a whole family, but I don't want us to hurt each other if it turns out you're only confused because your memories just came back. So maybe we should just take our time, see where things go. Troy smiled and nodded. You're still the same, Aileen. Always selfless, always thoughtful, never taking advantage of anyone. You're right. We both have things we need to sort out, especially me. I'm sorry if I was too impulsive. Troy suddenly thought of Fatima, his current girlfriend. He admitted he had been drawn to her, which was why he pursued her. Despite their busy schedules, their relationship had been okay. But now he felt miserable about the idea that someone would get hurt. Come on, let's go pick up our son, Troy said with a soft, encouraging smile. Aileen returned a small smile and nodded in agreement. They stood up from the couch, ready to head out, but both froze when the door suddenly opened. Troy was stunned to see Fatima standing there. Aileen's brow furrowed as she noticed Troy's reaction. Fatima, what are you doing here? Troy asked. Didn't I say I'd come visit you? Oh, you have company, Fatima said with a raised brow, glancing at Aileen. Hi, I'm Fatima, Troy's girlfriend. Aileen, she replied, shaking Fatima's offered hand. Troy's friend. Aileen felt a pang in her chest. Troy had told her they would take things slow, that they'd try again. But now she was learning he had a girlfriend all this time. She couldn't help the wave of disappointment that followed. I'll leave you two to talk, she said quickly. She knew they needed time alone. She didn't wait for either of them to speak and left right away to go pick up Priam. I don't believe you're just friends, Fatima said as soon as Aileen was gone. Her voice was flat. Are you cheating on me, Troy? Of course not, Troy said immediately, but I have something important to tell you. Go ahead, I'm listening, she replied, clearly not convinced. You already know I suffered selective amnesia after my accident, he began. Fatima nodded. That's why I came back here. I felt something was missing, like I wasn't whole. I wanted to remember everything. Just get to the point, Troy, she said, her frustration growing. One night, a little boy came to me asking for help. He said his mom was falsely accused of theft. His name is Priam. His mother is Aileen. When I saw Aileen's reaction, I asked for her help. That's how I learned. She was my girlfriend before I went to Seattle, right before the accident. Fatima's eyes widened. And the boy? He's my son. Before I left for Seattle, I proposed to her. She was pregnant. I promised I'd come back, but I never did, because of the accident. For years, I had no idea someone was waiting for me, that I had a child. I remember everything now, Troy added emotionally. I'm sorry, Fat. I never meant to hurt you, but I needed to tell you the truth. I don't want to be unfair to you. Fatima shut her eyes tightly and forced a small smile. When you were courting me, I always felt like something was missing. Even when we got together, it still felt like something was off. You said it was because of your lost memories, so I stayed. But you know what? I think it wasn't just your mind that was trying to remember. It was your heart. We've been together almost a year, Troy, and you never treated me badly. You were good to me, and for that, I'm thankful. She took a deep breath. Let's break up, Troy, she whispered. Troy was speechless. He knew he had hurt her, unintentionally, but the guilt was still there. You may have missed years of your son's life, but you still have many more ahead. Do everything you can to make them happy. I wish you the best, Fatima said, her voice emotional. Troy swallowed hard as Fatima walked over and hugged him tightly. I'm really sorry, Fat, he said weakly. You don't have to be sorry. None of this was your fault. Fate played with you, but fate also brought you back together. Out of all the people in this town, it was your son who came to you for help. That means something, she said, with a sad smile. Troy was in awe of how kind she was, even in the face of heartbreak. Fatima had always been smart and understanding. Now he felt more ashamed than ever. "At least I was the one who ended it," she joked lightly. "You didn't leave me. I let you go." "But seriously, Troy, I know you care. I'll be okay. Like I said, you deserve to be happy, and you'll only truly be happy if you're with them. So don't worry about me. Just follow your heart." "I'm really sorry, Fat, and thank you," Troy whispered. "Well, drop me off at the airport when you have time. It's the least you can do," she teased with a smile. She left afterward to call her parents and tell them everything that had happened. Though Troy felt incredibly guilty for hurting someone, he didn't want Fatima's kindness to go to waste, and so he became even more certain of what he had to do: rebuild his family. "Hi, flowers for you," Troy said that evening with a nervous smile as he arrived at Aileen's modest home, a bouquet in hand. He looked like a shy teenager, fumbling as he stood at the door. "What are you doing here? Where's your girlfriend?" Aileen asked immediately, her tone slightly bitter. Troy didn't know whether to wince or smile at the hint of resentment in her voice. "We already talked. She's gone back to Seattle. We decided to break up," he replied gently. "You broke up, and now you're here with flowers? That's why you're giving them to me?" Aileen asked in disbelief. Troy shook his head. "Number. That's not it. I mean..." He paused and took a deep breath. "Ever since the accident, since I lost my memories, I've been dreaming of a woman. I'd tell her how much I loved her, and she'd say she loved me back. I thought it was just my imagination. That's why I tried getting into a new relationship, hoping it would go away. But now I know, it was never just a dream. It was you, Aileen. That woman was you." Fatima was right. My mind forgot, but my heart didn't. Aileen swallowed hard, caught off guard by what he said. She couldn't deny the flutter in her chest. "I know it might be hard for you to believe what I'm saying, but trust me, we talked, Fatima and I. She was the one who ended it, but it was what I was planning to do anyway. I didn't want to hurt her more. Because now I want to make it up to you, to our son, and that's what she told me to do, too," he said sincerely. "I believe you," Aileen replied softly. Deep down, she knew Troy wasn't lying. She'd once known him inside and out. "You said we'd take things slow, right?" Troy asked, hopeful. Aileen gave a small, hesitant smile and nodded. "In that case, can I court you again?" he asked with a playful tone. "Aren't we too old for all that courting stuff?" Aileen teased. Troy grinned. "Then just say yes now and marry me right away." She rolled her eyes but laughed softly. "That's not what I meant," she said. "You don't have to court me again. Let's just see where life takes us. We already have a child, remember?" "I don't know where life will take us," Troy said, "but one thing I'm sure of. I want to take you to the altar. I want to marry you and take you and our son to a house we can call our own, a place where we can finally be a complete family." Aileen bit her lower lip, clearly moved. She couldn't find the words to respond and ended up falling silent, smiling as he playfully teased her again. The days that followed were full of joy and new beginnings. Troy was stunned when his parents suddenly came home to Georgia and were shocked to learn they had a grandchild. They apologized to Aileen, explaining that they had no idea Troy had left someone behind. Aileen told them it was okay. After all, no one had wanted things to turn out that way. Despite the emotional whirlwind, the reunion went smoothly and brought happiness to everyone involved. Troy's parents were overjoyed to finally meet their first grandchild. "Mum, Dad, when are you going back to Seattle?" Troy asked, while Priam munched on a chocolate bar beside him. "Well, if you'll let us take Priam with us, we'll go now," his mother joked. "I thought you were still courting Aileen," his dad added with a grin. "Wouldn't you want more alone time with her? We'll watch your son." Troy paused, realizing they had a point. He had been courting Aileen for a week now, doing everything he could to win her back. He had promised himself he would wait patiently until she said yes, but the truth was, he was getting impatient, not because he was tired of pursuing her, but because he longed to kiss her. Every time he looked at her lips, it took all his willpower to hold back. "You know what? You're right," Troy replied to his father with a smile. "I'm heading out. We might not be home for dinner." With that, he quickly left the house and drove to the mall, planning to surprise Aileen after her shift. When he arrived, he waited near the entrance. A few minutes later, he spotted her walking out, with Jake, her manager. They were laughing together. Troy felt a twinge of jealousy as he watched them. Jake wasn't doing anything wrong, and neither was Aileen, but that didn't stop the feeling from creeping in. "So, why do you look grumpy again?" Aileen asked with a chuckle as she approached. "You look too happy with that ugly guy," Troy muttered. "Are you jealous? Besides, Mr. Jake is handsome," she teased. Troy scowled harder. "But you're still more handsome," she added in a whisper. Troy's eyes widened at her last comment. Just like that, the jealousy vanished, replaced by giddy happiness. "Say that again?" "I didn't catch it," he said, pretending not to have heard. Aileen giggled and opened the car door. "I said I'm hungry. Let's go," she replied with a laugh. Troy had planned to take her straight home, but he smiled when he realized they were heading toward the plaza instead. They strolled around, eating street food and chatting like they used to. "Why do you always bring me here?" Aileen asked curiously. "Because this is where I first courted you, and this is where you said yes. Maybe, just maybe, you'll say yes again if I keep bringing you back," Troy said with a grin. "You haven't even asked me anything," she pointed out with a smile. "Can we be together again?" he asked quickly. "Please, I just want the right to be jealous, the right to hug and kiss you." "We never really broke up," she said softly. "Fate just tore us apart, but if it makes you feel better, then yes, we can be together again." Troy froze, stunned. When he realized she meant it, he let out a loud cheer, causing a few nearby people to turn their heads. He didn't care. Without hesitation, he leaned in and kissed Aileen, something he'd been wanting to do for weeks. "Thank you for giving us another chance, Aileen," he whispered after the kiss. "This time, I'll keep every promise I make, and I'll never leave you again." "I know you just said yes, and I know everything's been moving fast," Troy said after their kiss. "But it's been almost 7 years since I was last with you and our son. I don't want to waste any more time." Aileen frowned slightly, confused by what he meant. Her eyes widened in shock when Troy pulled something from his pocket, a gold ring with a diamond, and slowly knelt in front of her. "Back then, I couldn't afford something like this, so I gave you a ring made out of a straw from our drink," he said. "Right here, in front of this same church, I asked you to marry me, and that's what I want to do again. Marry me, Aileen. Let's build a family, together." Tears welled up in Aileen's eyes as she nodded repeatedly. "Yes, Troy, yes," she said with joy while crying. After he slipped the ring on her finger, Troy stood up and kissed her again. They were both startled when the people around them started clapping and cheering. Only then did they realize they had drawn quite a crowd. Troy laughed softly. Aileen, overwhelmed with shyness, buried her face in his chest. He wrapped his arms around her and held her close. The following days were filled with joy as they prepared for the upcoming wedding. Troy invited Aileen and Priam to live with him, and the mother and son happily agreed. Their life together as a family officially began. Of course, like all couples, they had disagreements and misunderstandings, but they always worked things out and never let any issue linger. Each night they went to bed side by side, smiling, feeling light, loved, and complete. Almost 2 years later, they were blessed with another child, a baby girl they named Prim. With the arrival of their second angel, their family grew even happier and stronger. Looking back, it was clear that fate had played a difficult game. It had pushed them to the edge, made them feel broken, but fate also found a way to bring them back together, to give them what was truly meant for them. If Troy had once felt like something was missing, now he felt complete, overflowing even, with the blessings he received through the family he built with Aileen. If Aileen once believed she was all alone, struggling through life, now she was surrounded by overwhelming love. Troy had shown her that she was never truly alone, and that he, along with their 2 children, would always be by her side. They felt like they had nothing more to ask for. Their life was filled with contentment and joy. When you think about it, their love story was simple, but it was full of meaningful lessons. Lessons about love for family, about perseverance through pain and hardship, about forgiveness and so much more. And those lessons, they knew they would carry with them, no matter what future trials they might face. The end. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this interesting story. This is your bestie, Mr. Hope, and I'll appreciate if you drop me a nice comment. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.